A hybrid work environment has transformed company work cultures to personal priorities. With the work from home or work from anywhere concept becoming an integral part of work cultures, brands like HP are arming organizations with the right innovations and technology solutions that collaborate effectively from anywhere and make this new era of work sustainable for all by configuring and deploying services just right for use in the office or remotely.
Hello and welcome to HP and Microsoft present Master Reset, the Future of Workplace, partnered by BizAnekdotes and Times Now. The workplace of the future is flexible, work anytime from anywhere. But does the enterprise-wide rollout of a remote workforce truly optimize employee performance? To shed more light on the subject, I'm joined by a highly distinguished panel of subject matter experts. Please allow me to introduce our guests. We have with us Managing Director of HP India, Ketan Patel. Senior Vice President of Finance at Infosys, Deepak Bhalla, Global CIO of Wipro, Anup Purohit, and Head of IT at the Flipkart Group, Bharat Reddy Gudeti. Now, Deepak, I'd love to kick off the conversation with you. And when your enterprise was considering migrating to a hybrid work environment, what were some of the key considerations, and to what extent did they factor in current versus future infrastructure needs?
The first consideration that we had, and which was most important for us, was the information security, and it was very important to create the same level of security, if not more, a higher level of security, to ensure that the data of our clients is safe. We are able to go back to our clients, convince them, and tell them that we have adequate security in place, even though people may be working from home. And fortunately, that there was enough technology available for us to be able to do that. Most of our associates working from our development centers were used to working with some of these technologies available with them. However, a lot of our employees were not so much used to seeing everybody as tiles on a Microsoft Windows screen. In 2 years or 3 years back, nobody would have imagined doing something like this in a virtual mode like this. So managers became a tile on Microsoft Teams window. Employees or colleagues became a tile on the window. Clients became a tile on a Microsoft Teams window. So it was a little weird at start, but I think people resilience of humans is never to be underestimated. So everybody kind of rallied together and came about. The fourth and the most important consideration for us, which we actually placed as the first first thing for us, was the well-being of our employees, making sure that both the physical and mental well-being of our employees is taken care of. And like I said, people are working from home. There's no boundary between when the work ends and when your life begins. Yeah, people are online all the time. People were initially in this enthusiasm of being working from home, or working 15-16 hours a day to make sure that everything is getting delivered, etc. Plus they had nothing else to do. So we had to kind of go on a lot of initiatives with our employees to educate them on the importance of being able to switch off at a particular point of time, keep a physical boundary between your workspace and your home, and a whole lot of things like this. Whether it is uh, training them on how to do physical how wellness is important. How do they able to connect to people who can help them in case they feel that there's a mental issue, they're getting into a depression or things like that. So a lot of those things, a lot of trial and error. uh, did we anticipate at that point of time that this will become the future? No, we did not. But over the few quarters, once a couple of quarters went by, we realized that this was going to be a long term kind of a strategy, and then we started pivoting towards that and figuring out how to make sure that we can leverage that in the long term. And one of the things that gets me very excited is that we, in this country, in India, we lose a lot of our women workforce to families and to children, and
We do.
particularly in the middle of their careers, somewhere during the age of 30 and 35. In between that, a lot of them drop off from the workforce, and it's mainly because they are unable to come to office on an everyday basis, leaving their families at home. So this gives us an opportunity to tap into that workforce, and that's what gets me very excited. Similarly, people in tier 3 towns like Ranchi, or even Dibrugarh, who are able to work from wherever they are, and those are things that are opportunities for us, to be honest with you.
Bharat, do you believe that traditional pre-pandemic workplaces are now somewhat out of sync with the needs of the modern day workforce?
Puja, not sure if I would characterize them as out of sync. Let's say when the pandemic hit, I think different industries had different reactions, right? Some of the new age technology firms, which are much more tech dependent or like a younger workforce, I think were much more faster in terms of adapting because their work enabled them to be like what you call a lot more remote, right? And then the traditional banking or the manufacturing industries had a lot more tougher time because like I think basis the regulations, the security needs and everything else, they were a lot more offline or like what called in the office presence. But now as we come back again, I say like okay, there is a what you call a mix of what you call how people are reacting to things, right? Like in the sense, like I think, like example, at Flipkart, we are trying a hybrid model of 3 days in office, 2 days at work. Some of others are at like all obviously going to be remote. And then I think some of the manufacturing industries have said like, okay, come everybody back to office. But what I would say like is like this is going to be a journey for all of us. We're all experimenting. Maybe it will take another 6 months to 1 year for to like people to understand what for parts of the industry can be in hybrid mode, what parts can be fully remote, what parts have to be in the office. And I think like maybe what will say like make the companies shine or like keep their employees happy and like be productive would be how fast are you adapting to the concerns that come?
I'd like to come to you now, Anu, because in these unprecedented times, in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen the chief information officer of an organization work hand in hand with its chief human resources officer. And these are, of course, two very distinct, divergent departments. So, to what extent have software and hardware IT solutions come to the rescue to ensure that employees are ultimately connected, collaborating, and fully secure while being productive?
As a large organization, employee performance optimization is not restricted to CHRO or CIO. The critical success factor was first, we have to fight for the survival and then restart and scale up our operations part of it. These critical success factors, I would say, were applied to all the relevant infrastructure that will support the new normal. At that point in time, it was 100% remote operation. Fortunately, I would say Wipro being an early adopter of a SaaS platform for some of the core infrastructure services, it was not that big a challenge for us to scale up our operation, whether it is through VDI solutions or whether it was through VPN or having a core security, as Deepak mentioned. That was important part available on the cloud so that we could scale our operation. A lot of credit, I would say, goes to the IT hardware providers because they played a pretty solid role. Normally, we have ODCs which are providing a kind of a support 24/7, but we use those machines almost on an average for 2 people, and that's a common practice in ITS industry. Now, when pandemic struck, we were left with no choice. We were running short of the hardware, and that's where partners like HP came into play. They immediately provided us the hardware and then ensured that those machines were shipped to the user's home. We actually shipped the desktop to the user's home. So that was a big support which we received from a lot of, I would say at that point in time, it was a lockdown. So we took help from a lot of agencies to see how we can ensure the machines were shipped at home. I would love to continue this journey further to make sure that we are more effective in cross domain collaboration, more frictionless in our monitoring, and ensuring the faster resolving when the such issues come up. So I would say kudos to the IT hardware companies because they had their own share of challenges, a shortage of components like semiconductors, which actually was one of the biggest problems. They are still struggling, but they are still ensuring that the business doesn't get stopped. So
Well, Ketan, Anup just referenced cross-domain collaboration a moment ago. And as an IT team's priorities continue to evolve, they extend beyond that collaboration to, of course, also include enhancing the employee experience. In fact, that priority seems to have taken center stage. So how might you recommend IT teams to leverage cutting-edge technology to essentially make that vision a reality and ensure that productivity doesn't take a backseat.
The needs of organization and employees are different across physical world, virtual world, and hybrid world, and how they seamlessly interact with each other will be very critical. And one of the big challenges which most companies cross industries are facing now as we move towards the world of hybrid is you will have few people or few employees, maybe 20-25% coming to office all the time. Maybe 20% of the employees comes once or twice a week maximum, and maybe 30, 40, 60%, depending on the industry and the type of businesses you are in, will never come to office. So this hybrid workforce is a seismic shift which has to be really managed very well. And IT to me is at the heart of hybrid. We had a concept at HP called Office of the Future. And I'm very happy that our insights based innovation led to that kind of a thinking, because we felt at that point in time that office is actually in the laptop. And how do you build a product which is really giving you that kind of an experience of an office which is always on the move? We started a concept 5 years back. We never thought pandemic is going to be there. And honestly, it helped us immensely, because imagine employee experience without top class collaboration and the device management, the kind of audio video quality, the kind of wastages or productivity loss you can go through because of that can be just unimaginable. So we're very happy that we had some already existing features which helped us to navigate some of these things. In an office on-prem infrastructure to moving to distributed workforce management was a big change. And we, of course, supplied devices, but I can imagine the friends on the panel, the kind of work they had to do to enable distributed workforce, unimaginable. And now that is becoming a norm. The IT teams are playing tremendous role to me in really making companies successful. Today they were even in yesteryears, but the role of IT has significantly changed as we see. And I tell you, workforce, distributed workforce management I spoke about. The other thing which now IT teams are challenged with, and I'm sure they are doing a great job already, is to how to create new and innovative collaborative workspaces. Because when employees are going to come back to office, you will have some people on Teams or Zooms and some people in the conference rooms, and you will come to more collaborative work. How do you create small huddles, large conference room, big collaborative spaces, and still give a seamless one-touch experience to customer, irrespective which room they are in? They should feel they are in this room. That's another kind of a challenge which is coming up in the hybrid workplace, and that's going to be another big area.
Data sharing and data privacy are concerns that have emerged and taken center stage over the course of this pandemic. So, within the four walls of your organization, how do you attempt to alleviate those concerns, both in the minds of the employee and the customer?
Data proliferation, leakage, even theft have emerged as the most important risks in the minds of our clients, as well as in our own minds when we are enabling our employees to work from home. And it's basically an impediment in the way of a sustained work from home kind of a model. So with the clients, it's mostly about reassuring them about what you have in terms of the protocols, exposing our protocols to them, showing them various certifications that you are doing on your network security and on your various type of securities, enabling them to be able to audit at any point of time what's happening in any particular desktop or in any particular laptop that is working on their critical data, splitting the data, splitting the workforce into multiple segments, particularly the segments that are dealing with the personally identifiable information, or PII as they call it in Europe, and insulating that in a much more encased capsule of security. So a whole lot of education with them, and as far as employees is concerned, I mean, I have this three pronged strategy that I always tell people to focus on. First is educate them, second is to monitor them, and the third is to have a very strong consequence management. Remember, the last word is not spoken yet. As of now, the clients are still in a situation where they have their own employees working from home. Once their employees come back to work, and they are also going to get a lot more aggressive with the IT providers to make sure that their data is secure. Monitoring tools, there are enough and plenty in the market available today, in terms of making sure that whether the employees have the data on their laptops, that the laptop is secure, the hard disk of the laptop is secure, they are unable to take anything out of there, they can't take screenshots, they can't take any USB devices and various other things that enable you to do physical security on the machines. And finally, the last point, which is always unpleasant, which is the consequence management in case something were to go wrong. It's important for us to demonstrate that as an organization, we have zero tolerance policy for incidents like this. And not only that we act in a decisive manner, we also go and educate other employees about these cases. We talk about them openly. We talk about them openly, not only within the organization, but we also talk about them with the clients, exposing it to them, showing them what we are doing to make sure that an incident like this does not happen again.
I'd like to now sort of take the conversation in a different direction. And for that, I'll come to you, Anu. Because in terms of migrating towards a hybrid work model, there is a whole sea and suite of tools and technologies out there. So how did you go about making the determination that these specific tools and technologies were the most appropriate for your organization, sir?
Obviously, to survive in this uncertain period, we had to demonstrate a lot of things differently, whether it's an agility in decisioning, flexibility, right balancing of the risk, simplicity, scalability, and the most important
So,
is the unwavering support or to provide a better customer experience. Now, when you apply these yardstick, when you are evaluating any tool beyond the technical and the functional capabilities, the decision become very easy, and so is the adoption. Because when any tool meets these criterias, I think it's that what a user want. We have close to, I would say, 250,000 colleagues across 65 countries. And honestly, and the similar thing for, I would say, Infosys, we are all used to working in a hybrid system, even prior to pandemic, because we have our customers sitting there, we have a half workforce sitting on site, half workforce sitting over here in India and supporting. So that was an added advantage to us. What we have done this time around is we have taken one level above, which means that in addition to 250,000 employees collaborating on teams, we have also ensured that 800 partners who are providing us services, whether it is SAP or a Microsoft themselves or any other partners who are working with us, they are also available onto the same extended collaboration framework.
Bharat, coming to you now, in terms of migrating to this hybrid work model, how did employees at your organization respond to this transition? And how did millennial employees in particular respond to this newfound flexibility?
See, from a Flipkart perspective, I would say because we are a much more younger workforce, and also since we are spread around the country and we are used to being like, okay, people working from home on and off, it was a much more relatively easier transition, right? Like we got in like, it was not new for people to join on video meetings. It was not new to basically for people to get a little bit of like, okay, breather, if I were to say, like in terms of like, okay, hey, here is my lunch break, like let's go there.
Right.
But what I do see though is like when the flexibility started in full earnest after the wave one, people started really spreading out to the rest of the country. And I think the forefront for this was pretty much the millennials, because they felt comfortable that, okay, all I need is a good internet connection. If I can get that, I should be able to work everywhere, which also now causes the reverse problem, which is as we figure out like, okay, can people come back to office? Right. The biggest probably resistance comes from the millennials saying that why should we come back? It's a experimentation that all the organizations are doing. What is the right mix of people in office, people or the job roles that can be fully offline? I think we will all evolve as like as an organization, as a country, as maybe the world. What we do see is the connects that we didn't have, especially with new employees who had joined during the pandemic. is like a lot better once you come back to office, right? Like you didn't miss that maybe connection with people who you always work with pre-pandemic, because you already know how to work with say, a certain person or a certain group. But with new employees, like assimilating into the culture of like the company and just getting to know like, okay, how things work, it's much more easier like being in face. And so like I think if I were to hazard a guess, I think like what would happen is maybe a combination of people coming to office either few times a week or maybe few times a month, and then like maybe remote could be one way to go. But again, I'll say it will be an evolution that will happen over the next one.
And with that, I come to you now, Ketan. And by way of closing comments, I believe that to lay the foundation for the future of workplace, we'll have to see fundamental changes across three key parameters. I think first will be the workplace itself, second will be the workforce, and perhaps lastly, and certainly not least, the work. So what role do you anticipate that technology will play in making that happen?
Technology is going to play the role of being survival of the fittest. Who is using technology the most smartest way is going to survive and build tremendous level of resilience. I think that phrase is absolutely apt on a daily basis. But if I look at it in the future of work being hybrid, there are three broad areas which we believe through our insight studies, which we've been doing over the last now 6 months with various our large customers as well as mid-sized customers, that the backbone of creating a new age workplace and workforce is going to be around richly connected endpoints, which are secure, digital services associated with it, which is the second big one in terms of making life simple for both employees and for IT. And then the third part is about creating collaborative workspaces. How do you really do a endpoint device onboarding of an employee at their home with an out-of-box setup with auto provisioning by persona type? And I think Deepak touched upon the persona type, right? Certain persona may require a very different kind of security versus a different persona, and a lot of other applications which could be very different by persona. How can you make it seamless to managing endpoints securely through a cloud-based feature, or supporting employees with advanced exchange kind of needs? Because the moment you don't have the endpoint device, your productivity loss is huge. 30% of productivity loss comes because of low grade devices or devices which doesn't give you immediate connectivity or the collaboration what you need. And the other thing which now employees will ask for, if they are not asking already, is making sure that how are we as companies like us as HP, how are we providing probably more better collaboration features like an AI adjusted audio to remove the surrounding noise around. And we are already working tremendously on that because we want to make sure that that experience goes up. Or smart cameras, which really takes care of these ambient light issues. And we are all in this hybrid world. We talk, and all this lighting, camera, audio, that is a huge productivity loss. So how do you make it happen?
Yes.
Bigger displays for
Right.
making sure that the employee wellness is taken care of. And then future-proof design, which is really making sure that this entire remote work becomes seamless. And that is what excites us, that gives us tremendous opportunity to innovate for this hybrid world and make life better. With products going into different homes, endpoint security is becoming more and more concerning. The cyber attacks can be made through endpoints, and there is a lot of infrastructure companies are really investing in to really make that a secure experience for their clients, their own in-house. But that's only going to make life tougher as we go. And then the last, which is the third pillar, is about the workspaces. How do you deliver experience? As I said earlier, being in the room from any room, beyond the desk, office spaces are being redesigned for working together. And we need a right-sized collaboration solutions, simple, easy to use, and how we are really designing it in a hybrid work environment. And all this, and my friends on the panel would agree, if we are able to do it something like a per seat basis, that makes it a very seamless experience. So I think this is the way to embrace hybrid. And we, as I said earlier, we keep learning from some of these esteemed panelists in terms of what their needs are, because that really keeps us going in terms of what new innovation they need to bring, both in terms of devices as well as services.
Well, Ketan, I believe I speak for everyone in saying that you've offered us a sneak preview into the future and given us a lot to look forward to with respect to this hybrid work model and its future growth prospects. And with that, our special feature, HP and Microsoft present Master Reset, the Future of Workplace, partnered by BizAnekdotes and Times Now, comes to a close. We trust that you found the insight shared of value, and I have to thank all of our panelists for sharing such a rich range of takeaways from their personal and professional journeys. And thanks to you for tuning in.